In this video, I'll be testing every vitality perk and showing you exactly how each one works, or in several cases, how they don't. Of all the perk trees I've tested so far, vitality was the worst in terms of broken ones. By the end, I'll rank each perk and give you a solid upgrade path to follow if you need some guidance. Check the link in the description if you're interested in the full perk database. It's free to use. Let's go find those broken ones. Up first, we have Ascetic, which reduces the rate at which our nourishment decreases. Without the perk, hunger went down by 25 every 12 hours, and with the perk, it went down by only 17 for the same 12 hours. The math comes out to roughly 28%, but there's probably some rounding error involved. This perk works as described, but I don't think this is a good one to take. Quick-Blooded is supposed to make bleeds drain our HP slower. For this test, we force a guard to slice us up, run to a safe spot, and create a save file. Then wait to bleed out both with and without the perk using the exact same save point as a control. It took exactly 4 minutes and 6 seconds both times. I never thought I would see some Tailworlds math in KCD2, but here we are.
Oh, I can't believe you've done this.
This perk is not currently working, so do not waste your time or your perk points on it. Balanced Diet gives a bonus of 20% to stamina recovery and 10% to vitality gain if you don't overeat, undereat, or get drunk. I spent nearly 2 hours testing this perk because the results were all over the place. The stamina regen is definitely working properly, as without the perk it took around 6 seconds to recover stamina fully, and with the perk it took only 5 seconds. The vitality gain was another story. In one test, I got an increase of 24% for a set of actions, while others were much closer to the stated 10% mark for those same set of actions. It's possible there were some factors skewing the 24% results, like not having the exact same weight while walking overburdened, stat buffs and debuffs not being the exact same, etc. In the final test, I felt much better about controlling the variables, but I felt it was important to mention it. I also spent some time on the activation and deactivation of this perk. The timer starts as soon as you're not drunk and your nutrition is between 51 and 100. You need to maintain that nutrition value and avoid being drunk for exactly 3 days or 72 hours for it to turn on. It will turn off if your hunger reaches 50 or 101 nutrition, so be careful with your eating, resting, and sleeping. As for getting drunk, it will depend on your current drinking skill. You can still drink alcohol and not deactivate the perk, but as soon as you go into the drunk phase, the buff will turn off. This is a great perk to take for any build if you're willing to deal with managing food and alcohol intake. Creative Soul allows us to replenish our energy while doing any of these 4 activities: alchemy, sharpening a weapon, blacksmithing, or playing dice. I was able to test all 4 and they all had the exact same results. After starting with 0 energy and sitting in the minigame for exactly 1 minute, 7 energy was replenished. If you do a lot of any of these activities, this perk can help save you time by not having to sleep. It's not the most useful, since you can achieve the same results by consuming some alcohol or some potions, but it's still not a bad perk. Next to Godliness heals us for 10 HP when we wash at a tub, a pier where you would wash clothing, and at the bathhouse when you do the cheapest service that doesn't normally heal you. It also heals 25% faster through sleep when we go to bed clean. I tested all 3 ways to get 10 HP and they worked just fine. When testing the faster heal from sleep, we regain 10 HP from a decent bed without the perk and 12 to 13 HP with the perk, which is exactly 25%. I also tested to see if the extra healing stops working when you're dirty, but no matter how many people I killed and how dirty I got, it still worked. The only thing I didn't test was being stinky, so it's possible it turns off for that. But under normal circumstances, it works 100% of the time. Well-dressed causes our clothes and body to get dirty 20% slower and allows us to clean our bodies to 0% dirt through a tub, but it doesn't affect the clothing. In my testing, I wasn't able to notice any difference with and without the perk. I tried murdering the whole town of Troskovitz, but my dirt level barely rose to 3%, which wouldn't be enough to see a 20% difference if we turned the perk on. I loaded a save before digging holes, which increased the dirt on our clothes to 89% for 2 holes. I reloaded and took the perk, but the results were the same, 89% dirt. There's 2 explanations here. The perk doesn't work at all, or it doesn't work with digging holes. You get dirty in KCD2 so slowly from normal daily activities that this perk is pretty much useless. Do not pick this perk. Hermes' Haste increases our sprinting speed by 20%. For this test, I ran a set course 3 different times. Without the perk, we can run for 36 seconds before running out of stamina and stop in the fields short of this rock and bush. With the perk, we're able to run the same 36 seconds before running out of stamina and go well beyond that same rock and bush. I ran it a final time and stopped at roughly the same spot as without the perk, and it took only 28 seconds, or 6 seconds faster, or 22%. There's likely some error in not stopping at the exact same spot, but the perk is clearly working, and I do recommend this one. Not only do you move 20% faster, but it doesn't affect your stamina drain, which is almost like getting double the bonus. Marathon Runner reduces the stamina drain while sprinting by 20%. We use the same set course from the previous test, and we see again a 36-second run without the perks. When we take the perk, it increases our run length by 9 seconds up to 45 in total, which is exactly 20%. It's interesting to note that both Hermes' Haste allow you to run the same distance, as the stopping point was the same for both, but Hermes' Haste did it in only 36 seconds instead of 45 for Marathon Runner. I did one final test to see how good combining the two perks would be, and we ended up past the little hut we were aiming at in the same 45-second time frame. This is a great perk as well as Hermes' Haste, but if you have only 1 point to spend, it should be Hermes first, then Marathon Runner next. Red Mist gives a bonus of +3 to strength and agility, as well as stamina regen of 400% when your health drops below 25% while in combat. This is a bit misleading, however, as we'll see from the testing. I started off by dropping my health below 25% and entering into combat. Sadly, the perk does not activate. Then I entered into combat and then proceeded to go below 25 HP, which did cause the perk to activate. It does give the strength and agility bonuses of +3 and stamina regens incredibly fast, but your stamina pool is tiny when you're at 25% or lower, so it's really not that big of a difference. Worst of all, this perk has a very limited time frame. It stays on for 24 seconds regardless of being in combat or not, or how many enemies you're up against, and then it shuts off. If you're in combat with multiple opponents, you'll get exactly 24 seconds of bonus as soon as your health drops below 25, and you'll not be able to get it again until you heal, which you can't really do while in combat. If this perk stayed active while at low HP and didn't have the 24-second timer, it would be an amazing perk. But because of its very limited time window of use, it's not nearly as good. Revenant gives us a passive healing up to 50 HP, but it doesn't work while you're in combat or while you're bleeding. To test it, we fought a guard, took damage and a bleed, got our health below 50, and noticed that the healing does not work while you're in combat, nor while you're bleeding. But once we patched up and we were by ourselves, we started to heal quickly. You can also pass time to speed this up further if you wish. This is a nice to have perk, although Marigold Decoctions can do even better, so I won't rate this perk quite as highly. Diehard is a perk that regenerates our HP back to 25% if we take a hit that would have normally killed us. However, this isn't quite accurate as we'll see from the testing. We pick a fight with guards and get blasted from multiple angles and activate the perk, but our health continuously tries to regen back to 25%. As long as we keep taking damage and don't get to 25, we will get immunity from death and a constant regen. This is one of my favorite perks in the game and I highly recommend it. One quick note, I tested it while jumping off a cliff and it does not save you from fall damage. You've been warned. Never Surrender is the perk that I wish Red Mist was. It gives 25 armor when your health falls below 25 HP, but it activates when you're in combat and does not have a timer. I tested entering into combat with lower than 25 HP first, and it turns on. It also turns on if you have more than 25 HP, enter combat, get hit, and then fall below 25. Looking at the armor stats, our helmet has 201, 255, and 161 armor rating without the perk, and 226, 280, and 186 with the perk, adding exactly 25 to each. While an armor boost isn't the most useful bonus to have, it doesn't require ridiculous hoops to jump through, and it can actually be used in long fights, unlike Red Mist, so I rate this one highly. I hope they eventually fix Red Mist to have the same rule set as this one. Revenant II is the exact same as the first, but instead of going up to 50 HP, it increases that limit up to 75. Through the testing, it works exactly as described and is a great perk to pick. Now let's move on to the perk rankings, starting with level 6 Ascetic. This perk is more about convenience than actually being useful. Food is all over the map and nutrition doesn't go down that fast, so the only reason I can see to take this perk is to avoid having to open your inventory as often to eat. I'm placing this in the C tier. The other level 6 perk is Thick Blooded, and I couldn't get this one to work no matter what I tried. Please let me know if there's something I'm missing. Until then, this belongs firmly in the F tier if we had one. Moving on to the level 8 perks. Balanced Diet is an amazing perk. The extra XP gain is nice to have this early in a run, and the stamina boost is massive. The only downside is it can be a pain to not mess up the nutrition or get drunk for 3 days. But with a tiny bit of care, you'll keep this perk active for the entire run. If you look up S tier in the dictionary, Balanced Diet would be one of the examples they use. Up next at level 8, we have Creative Soul. This perk allows us to restore energy while crafting, sharpening, making potions, or playing dice. If you plan on using any of these activities, this perk can really come in handy by avoiding sleep altogether. If you're not planning on doing any of these, it can still be useful. If you sit inside any of those minigames and go AFK for a few minutes, when you come back, you'll be fully restored without having to spend any time or money on a bed. This one could go either in A tier or B tier, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I'll put it in A for now. Our first level 10 perk is next to Godliness. This one gives us 10 HP anytime we wash up and a boost to healing if we go to sleep while clean. In several of my tests, it was difficult for me to get dirty enough to turn the perk off, so unless you're digging holes, you should be able to use this most of your game. It's not an amazing perk, but it's also not that bad. This is B tier for me. The other level 10 perk is Well Dressed, and is supposed to reduce the amount of dirt we accumulate and allow us to wash dirt off the body. I wasn't able to notice any difference from my testing from digging holes, and there's no way to see the dirt stat of your body, so I have no clue if this part is broken too. Let me know if you have better information than this. D tier. Moving on to the level 12 perks. Hermes Haste increases our sprinting speed by 20%, but from the testing, it doesn't increase your stamina cost to achieve this. So not only can you get to your destination faster, but you can actually run further with this perk. This is a solid S tier. Level 12 Marathon Runner reduces the stamina cost of sprinting by 20%, which doesn't get us to our destination any faster, but it will let us run further. Between Hermes Haste and Marathon Runner, Hermes is the better perk by far, but Marathon Runner is still a great one to pick up. I recommend skipping the perks at level 10 and getting both of these together instead. I'm placing this into the A tier. Level 14 Red Mist was a huge disappointment for me. This perk grants +3 strength and agility and 4 times stamina regen if we go below 25 HP. The problem is with how it turns on and off. If you're already below 25 HP and get attacked, the perk won't turn on. If you're fighting a large group, the perk will turn off after 24 seconds, which means it will turn off before you're done fighting most likely. This perk can potentially help an expert player who can deal with a large group quickly, but then again, an expert player won't need a perk like this in the first place, while most other players will need it to last much longer to be actually usable. It can still help beginner players against 1 or maybe 2 enemies, so I'll still rate it in the B tier. Level 14 Revenant allows us to passively heal for free up to 50 HP when not in combat or bleeding. While this is not an essential perk, I do find it quite useful. This is a solid A tier, probably ahead of the other two. Also, let's scoot Marathon Runner ahead of Creative Soul while we're at it. Level 16 Diehard is the same tier as the Bruce Willis action movie this is named after.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's perfection. The perk is supposed to save us from a lethal hit and regenerate 25 hit points, but it does even more than that. If you continue to get hit while your HP is in the regen phase, you'll continue to heal way more than 25. There are a lot of good perks in KCD2, but this is probably number 1 across every perk in the game. S tier, and taking pole position too. Level 18 Never Surrender is similar to Red Mist in that it activates when our HP is less than 25, but it grants 25 armor across the board. More importantly, this perk works without a time limit. The only requirement is less than 25 HP while in combat. I really hope they change Red Mist to have the same activation scheme as this. The armor is nice to have, but it's probably not going to do too much to save you if you're already at less than 25 hit points. So for that reason, I'm placing this into the B tier. Level 20 Revenant II is more of the same as the first one. It ups the HP limit from 50 to 75 or nearly fully healed. This one is A tier as well. I'll admit, I was a bit triggered when starting the testing for this one. A lot of the early game perks were either not working or not very useful, but by the end I felt much better about Vitality as a whole. All of the S tier perks and A tier perks are spread out nicely. They aren't all loaded at the higher levels. They're also usable by nearly any build, making these perks almost mandatory for any playthrough. My personal upgrade route is to skip level 6 perks, take both level 8 perks Balanced Diet and Creative Soul. Then skip both perks at level 10, and take both level 12 perks, Hermes Haste and Marathon Runner. After that, it's pretty straightforward. Revenant first, Diehard next, and then fill in the rest. I really do hope I was testing some of these perks incorrectly because I was getting Bannerlord vibes big time. Let me know which perk surprised you the most. Personally, I already knew the S tier perks were good, but I also had Red Mist in S tier because I thought it worked all the time, so that perk definitely surprised me the most with how bad it was. If you want to see the best possible start for a Thief playthrough, click this video on screen now. A big thanks to all the YouTube members and Patreon supporters who help keep the channel going. They get early access to all our videos and many other perks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.